series. So for anybody who is joining us for the first time, I run a podcast called Secrets of the Sire, where we do a lot of cool and awesome things. And one of the things that we do is a Wednesday night show. We talk to comics, movies, TV, and pop culture with great guests. And tonight we have Thomas Ian Nicholas from American Pie. Joined us on last week's show. This is for anybody who just wanted to catch that interview. We got him at Wizard World Chicago. Again, big thanks to them. If you'd like to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Secrets of the Sire. I can't stress that enough. That is really the place to go, along with facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire. Anyway, we caught up with Thomas Ian Nicholas, American Pie. Talks about the 20th anniversary coming up. Talks about his new YA film that he's going to be, YA book that he's hoping to turn into a film. Talks about a lot of really cool things. So without further ado, I give you Thomas Ian Nicholas from American Pie.
Yet, give us an update, give our audience an update. How's it gone? How's the reception gone? How's the book going in general?
Well, the book is being very well received. We've even had people showing up. So we'll do book signings in cities at Barnes and Noble or local bookstores. Someone will come buy the book on a Wednesday, and by the time we get to the convention, they'll be halfway through the book and come dressed as the main character, Zaid. So we've had some cosplay. So like I said, it's being very well received. And we have some very important meetings coming up when we get back to Los Angeles. There's not really too much I can divulge. So, you can't really put the carriage in front of the horse. So we have some strong interest from some very substantial companies and actors. And once we lock those into place, if everything moves the way that we're hoping it will, we could be making some very big announcements soon.
Laney, give the elevator pitch for the book for our audience.
So it's about a young woman that moves to Las Vegas to work for a magic show, but she can do real magic. It was 34 on the USA Today bestseller list when it came out. And just like Harry Potter, it's okay for all ages. So I'll have a lot of adult fans read it and love it, but it's also appropriate for kids. And I've had those as young as 8 read it, probably with some help on a few of the words, and as old as 90. I've had a 90-year-old fan that came to one of my book signings. It was really cool because she was so excited. I was the first author she'd ever met in 90 years. So,
how did you guys come together with the project and everything?
We were working on a musical project a few years ago, and I had written the script, and I hadn't really shown it to anyone yet.
A musical project? Like, why is it that you can't tell this part of the story? We were doing a music project together. A musical sounds like we're doing something for Broadway.
As you noticed, Tom loves to give me a hard time. We were working on a...
She can write, can't speak. It's okay.
It's the sign of a good partnership. Don't worry.
We were working on an album, actually, if you want to get technical. He did a song for this album that I executive produced with some other acts on it. And I had written the script. I hadn't really shown it to anyone yet. And I just thought, wouldn't he be a great person to have it to read it? And, because obviously of his background and he'd been acting and, producing in his own movies. And I was just like, I'd love your honest opinion about it. And maybe one day I could cast you in it. And I kind of laughed. And then he read it and he loved it. And he came back with some notes. And I liked all his notes but one. And he was like, if you like, if you're kind of getting, vibing with what I'm saying about some of this stuff, maybe we can work on it together. And I was like, that sounds great. So I adapted all his notes. So while he didn't write any of the book, he helped develop the story that became the book. And not too long after that, I had a small book publisher read it and convinced me to turn it into a book. And so now here we are.
It's fantastic. Thomas, I got to say, you have hit the Comic-Con circuit the last, almost 2 years now. 2 seasons at least anyway of Comic-Cons. And you do it. I'm a comic book creator myself. I know how it is to grind at these things and to see someone at your level, really take this grassroots. I got to say, I'm really impressed.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we started on the circuit, I would say, last, April. I think was when we really started hitting the ground running with the pre-sales for the book. Prior to that, I'd only done a handful of Comic-Cons, and it just was something that I experienced for the first time. My first Comic-Con was Wales in 2012, right around the release of American Reunion. And that was where I saw like the shift of Comic-Cons kind of opening up, I think, a little bit more to pop culture. And obviously still servicing, you know, the comic books and superheroes. But I remember when I first got offered to go, I was like, I'm not in a superhero movie. I'm not in a Marvel thing or a DC comic. I'm not into fantasy. Like, I mean, obviously the closest thing I've got to fantasy is having a 100-mile-an-hour fastball arm or falling through time. So both of which are
A Kid in King Arthur's Court is pretty fantasy. You go to the medieval times.
Yes, I included that in there in my fantasy thing. It's also fantastical to have a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. That is a kid's fantasy. Both are fantastical, but they don't necessarily delve into the fantasy realm of Comic-Con, like at least where Comic-Con was maybe 10 years ago. But really the hitting the ground on doing every one came with the idea of Lanny taking her screenplay, adapting it into a book so that we could introduce it to the audience. We realized that the audience for that type of fantasy story was here, and we could nurture and sort of plant the seeds of generating an audience before the film is made.
It's fantastic, too. It's a great strategy, and it's one, obviously, in this world, production companies want this following behind it, and it's great that you were able to kind of tap in because it's very relatable and it's very related to what we have.
Well, I think the idea is most of what we see here is people celebrating that which has already been released. So we're forging forward and trying to do that in a reverse engineering sort of mode.
Absolutely, and it's like I said, very impressive to see you really, putting the work in. It's amazing. So, last question: American Pie, 20-year anniversary coming up next year. What do you guys have planned for that?
There have been a lot of rumblings about the development of American Pie 5. I mean, they've kind of been in existence since we did American Reunion. And I know that John and Hayden have a concept for a sequel. I mistakenly thought the script had already been written and commissioned by Universal right after we had done that, based upon some of the conversations that I had with executives. And I recently was quoted in an article saying that. I apparently was wrong. So I retract my... Well, they didn't reach out. I reached out to John and Hayden because I had heard that developments were farther along. And I said, oh, hey, is there something more happening that I don't know about? And they said no. And then they actually clarified that the script hadn't been written yet. At least I thought it had been sitting on a shelf for 5 years at Universal. Wrong. I was wrong. I apologize. I'm retracting my statement. But that doesn't make it any less viable that it could be, a possibility. And with Adam Herz's original sort of concept that teen comedies have a 20-year cycle, now it's the 20-year anniversary of the first American Pie. Hey, who knows? Anything's possible.
That was Thomas Ian Nicholas from American Pie. Again, tune into Secrets of the Sire. We talked comics, movies, TV, pop culture. Last week, Dark Phoenix. This week, who knows? What we do know is we're going to be doing a New York Comic Con preview this week, featuring artist Tony Moy from the Mainstream. Mainstream's pretty awesome. It was a book that I co-wrote and created with Tony and Talent Caldwell. And we're also going to be welcoming David Alday from Vampire Diaries on as well, too. So we're going to check out his interview. It's pretty dope as well, too. And just tons of surprises. You never know what kind of trailer is going to drop. We're going to preview Venom. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on. New York Comic Con preview. Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, talkradio.nyc. Streaming live here on YouTube. Streaming on Facebook.com/Secrets of the Sire. Just streaming everywhere. Go check us out. Thank you, folks.